Souter Lighthouse, a beacon through time, tragedy, and the paranormal. Perched on the rugged cliffs of Marsden, South Shields, England, Souter Lighthouse commands attention with its iconic red and white stripes and imposing stature. As one of the first lighthouses in the world specifically constructed to be powered by electricity, it marked a monumental shift in maritime navigation and technological advancement. But beyond its engineering marvel lies a story that spans centuries. A story soaked in salt air, shaped by human courage, shadowed by tragedies, and whispered with tales of the supernatural. Built in 1871, Souter Lighthouse was more than just a guardian of the coastline. It was a symbol of innovation, a home to generations of keepers, and a witness to the joys and sorrows of maritime life. It overlooked one of the most treacherous stretches of water along the British coastline, a perilous segment of the North Sea littered with the wrecks of ships and the ghosts of sailors lost at sea. Its beam guided vessels away from jagged reefs and fog-covered shores, standing as both a lifeline and a silent observer of nature's fury. Yet, Souter's story is not merely one of machinery and maritime safety. It is interwoven with tragedy, from deadly storms and shipwrecks to the emotional toll on the families who made the lighthouse their home. Moreover, long after the light was decommissioned in 1988, visitors and staff alike began to report strange occurrences within its brick walls. Footsteps echoing in empty rooms, disembodied voices, and even ghostly figures seen walking the keeper's quarters. These accounts have added a chilling layer to Souter's legacy, transforming it into one of the most haunted lighthouses in England. The mid-19th century was a time of great change in Britain. The Industrial Revolution had transformed cities and countryside alike, and maritime trade was thriving. With the growth of this commerce came an increased need for safe navigation, especially along the perilous northeast coast of England, a stretch of water often plagued by dense fog, shifting sandbanks, and violent storms. The coastline between the Tyne and Wear rivers was particularly notorious. The reef known as Whitburn's Steel, just offshore from Marsden, was a graveyard of wrecked ships. Before the construction of Souter Lighthouse, countless vessels met their end on these rocks, and the local communities were all too familiar with the devastating consequences of such shipwrecks. Fishermen and merchants called for a reliable navigation system that could pierce the mists and guide ships to safety. It was in response to this dire need that the Trinity House Corporation, the organisation responsible for lighthouses in England, commissioned the construction of a new lighthouse. Designed by civil engineer James Douglas, Souter Lighthouse was built with innovation in mind. From the outset, it was intended to be powered by electricity, a radical concept at the time. The location chosen for the lighthouse, Souter Point, was strategic, elevated, isolated, and perfectly positioned to cast a warning light far across the North Sea. Construction began in 1869 and was completed in 1871. The lighthouse stood at 75 feet tall, with its powerful lantern perched atop a cylindrical stone tower painted in bold red and white bands to ensure visibility even during daylight. The electric light itself was revolutionary. Using a carbon arc lamp, it was powered by machinery housed in an adjoining engine room. Souter's beam was said to be visible for up to 26 nautical miles, a dramatic improvement over oil lamps and reflectors used in earlier lighthouses. This made Souter the first lighthouse in the world built with the explicit purpose of housing electric light, placing it firmly at the forefront of technological advancement. Douglas's design also included spacious living quarters for the lighthouse keepers and their families, outbuildings for fuel storage, and a foghorn installation. These elements combined to create not just a beacon, but a self-sufficient community capable of enduring the harsh conditions of the northeast coast. In the context of maritime history, Souter Lighthouse was a game changer. Its electric beam not only saved countless lives, but also heralded a new era in lighthouse design. one that embraced science and technology as integral tools of safety and efficiency. Yet for all its modernity, Souter would soon bear witness to the ancient trials of wind, wave, and human frailty. At the heart of Souter Lighthouse's reputation is its distinction as the first purpose-built electric lighthouse in the world. This was not a retrofitted oil lantern bolted to a stone tower, but a vision of futuristic engineering that required groundbreaking infrastructure. The lighthouse's arc lamp utilized a system where two carbon rods were electrified to create a blindingly bright arc of light, an innovation made possible through the rapid development of electrical power in the mid-19th century. Unlike oil lamps that dimmed with soot and had to be continually monitored, the carbon arc produced a cleaner, more consistent beam that pierced even the thickest sea fog. To power this lamp, Souter Lighthouse was equipped with its own on-site generator. The site included an engine room with two powerful magneto-electric machines driven by coal-powered steam engines. The noise and mechanical complexity of this system made it a marvel of its time and a challenge to maintain. Every component had to be carefully monitored by skilled keepers. If the arc was misaligned or the carbon rods wore down unevenly, the light could flicker or fail entirely. Thus, Souter's staff weren't merely watchmen, they were trained technicians operating the cutting edge of 19th century engineering. In addition to the light, Souter was outfitted with an enormous foghorn, another technological achievement that demonstrated the lighthouse's commitment to safety. This fog signal, audible for miles, helped ships navigate during low visibility conditions. The horn was driven by compressed air and activated when fog rolled in from the sea, often at a moment's notice. Souter's technological advancements did not stop in the 19th century. Over the decades, it evolved alongside the industry. The carbon arc was replaced by more efficient forms of electric lighting, including incandescent and later halogen lamps. In 1952, the lighthouse was connected to the national grid, retiring the original steam engines and modernizing the entire operation. Even as its original technology was surpassed, Souter remained an icon of innovation. For over a century, it represented the highest standards of engineering and maritime safety. But while machines whirred and lights shone, life at the lighthouse was shaped just as much by the human stories behind the beam. Life at Souter Lighthouse was structured, communal, and sometimes monotonous, but it was also filled with purpose. The keepers, often accompanied by their families, lived within the compound and shared in the responsibilities of keeping the lighthouse operational every hour of every day. Each day began early. The head keeper and assistants followed a strict rotation, monitoring the light, checking fuel and engine levels, maintaining equipment and updating the logbooks. During periods of foul weather or fog, shifts became more intense. Someone always had to be on watch, adjusting the arc lamp, blowing the foghorn, or signaling ships in distress. Isolation was one of the greatest challenges. Though Souter was accessible by road and located near the town of South Shields, the weather often made travel difficult. During storms, the wind howled through the chimneys, and the lighthouse would shake as waves crashed against the cliffs. These moments forged strong bonds among residents, but also instilled a lingering sense of unease. Despite the rigid schedule, there was room for leisure. Music, card games, and reading were popular pastimes. Birthdays and holidays were celebrated together. Over time, a unique subculture developed, one where duty, resilience, and camaraderie were paramount. However, the tranquility of lighthouse life was often disrupted by tragedy, either on shore or at sea. The keepers, first responders to many maritime accidents, were no strangers to grief and trauma. The beacon was a symbol of hope to others, but for the keepers, it was also a front-row seat to nature's most unforgiving moments. The story of Souter Lighthouse is incomplete without the lives of the people who kept its light burning. From the earliest headkeeper to the final technician before decommissioning, each individual brought a blend of discipline, sacrifice, and humanity to the post. Keepers were often recruited from naval or maritime backgrounds and underwent training at Trinity House. They were expected to be engineers, meteorologists, mechanics, and caretakers, a complex set of roles underpinned by a deep commitment to duty. One of the earliest and most well-documented keepers was Thomas Embleton, who served in the late 19th century. Known for his precision and quiet authority, Embleton kept meticulous logs and ensured the light never faltered. He also raised a family at Souter, and his descendants have provided invaluable oral histories that inform our understanding of life at the lighthouse. Many keepers spent decades in service, moving between stations across the British coast. But those stationed at Souter often described a unique sense of place, a blend of danger and beauty, of isolation and routine. Wives and children played a critical role in building a sense of normalcy within the compound's walls, despite the ever-present threat of tragedy from the sea. One particularly moving story is that of James Rennick, a second assistant keeper in the 1920s. His youngest daughter drowned in a nearby rock pool during a stormy afternoon while the family gathered mussels. The event cast a long shadow over the household, yet Renwick continued his duties with stoic devotion, a testament to the emotional burdens keepers often bore in silence. Later generations of keepers navigated the challenges of modernization, the transition to electric grid power, the eventual automation of the foghorn, and the approach of decommissioning all brought changes that disrupted long-standing traditions. Still, many families continued to live on site, preserving a fading way of life. Even today, visitors can walk through the keepers' quarters, left largely as they were decades ago. Photographs, furniture, and handwritten logs offer a glimpse into a world both foreign and deeply human. A world where the relentless responsibility of keeping the light burning defined not just a job, but a life. Despite its technological sophistication, Souter Lighthouse could not prevent every maritime disaster. It stood sentinel over one of the most treacherous stretches of coastline in the British Isles, where shifting sands, submerged rocks, and unpredictable weather frequently conspired to claim vessels. The North Sea, particularly around Whitburn and Marsden, was both a vital trade route and a deadly trap. Even after the lighthouse was operational, shipwrecks continued to occur. Among the most infamous was the wreck of the Oslofjord in the early 20th century. Caught in dense fog and high surf, the Norwegian ship struck a submerged reef near Whitburn Steel. Although the lighthouse's beam was active, the limited visibility and a navigational error doomed the vessel. Lifeboats were dispatched from nearby ports, and several crew members were rescued, but a number perished in the frigid waters. Their bodies later washed ashore below the lighthouse cliffs. One of the deadliest winters on record came in 1901, when a violent storm system battered the coast for 3 consecutive days. During this time, several smaller fishing vessels capsized, and the lighthouse staff worked tirelessly to coordinate rescue efforts. Waves over 40 feet tall slammed into the cliffs. According to keeper logs from the period, one crew member described seeing a fishing boat break apart mid-air as it was lifted on a wave and dashed against the rocks. Entire families in the nearby Marsden village mourned the loss of husbands, fathers, and sons. In 1915, during World War I, tragedy again struck near Souter when the Black Hill, a British cargo steamer, was torpedoed by a German U-boat. The ship had attempted to seek refuge by hugging the shoreline. The explosion could be heard at the lighthouse. Flaming debris rained down, and the sea was stained with oil. Several crewmen were pulled ashore alive by local fishermen, but 12 were killed instantly. The incident left an indelible mark on the lighthouse community, who had witnessed the horror from their own windows. Storms often brought destruction not only to ships, but to the lighthouse itself. lightning strikes were a particular hazard before the structure was properly grounded. In 1893, a bolt hit the metal roof of the engine house, igniting a fire that took hours to extinguish. Although no one was injured, the damage to the electrical system disrupted the light for nearly 2 days, during which several nearby vessels reported dangerously close calls. The emotional toll on the lighthouse keepers and their families cannot be overstated. To watch a ship founder just beyond the rocks and to hear the cries of the drowning, and sometimes be unable to reach them, was a burden that many carried silently. Some keepers wrote of recurring nightmares and superstitions, believing that certain storms were omens or retribution for failures long past. These tragedies underscore the limits of human ingenuity when faced with nature's full force. Even the most advanced lighthouse could not prevent every loss. But what Souter Lighthouse did offer was a fighting chance, a hope in the darkness. And for many sailors, that was enough to make the difference between life and death. Souter Lighthouse, like many coastal installations, played a strategic role during the 2 world wars. Its prominent location and powerful beam made it both a navigational aid and a potential target. Wartime brought new responsibilities, dangers, and tragedies to the lighthouse and its staff. During World War I, the German Navy operated increasingly close to British shores. Mines were laid in shipping lanes, and U-boats prowled the North Sea, seeking merchant and military targets alike. Souter's light was frequently ordered to be extinguished to prevent enemy ships from navigating by it. This dimming of the beacon was deeply symbolic, a temporary silence of a light meant to protect, and it was done only with great reluctance. Keepers at the time were ordered to report any unusual activity, including lights at sea, flares, or the sound of engines. They worked closely with Royal Navy observers stationed nearby. During this period, the keepers also maintained a rudimentary form of civil defense, including lookout duties and even helping to direct shore batteries. The lighthouse was more directly involved during World War II. After the fall of France, the British government feared an invasion along the northeast coast. Souter was fortified with sandbags and barbed wire, and nearby cliffs were mined to prevent enemy landings. Air raids were a constant threat. On multiple occasions, German bombers flew low over the coast, attempting to strike industrial targets in Sunderland and South Shields. In 1941, a stray bomb landed near the lighthouse, shattering windows and damaging outbuildings. Despite the wartime darkness, Souter's keepers maintained their post. Their work now extended beyond keeping the light. They relayed messages, helped with coastal watch operations, and even provided shelter to local families during the worst raids. One tragic incident occurred in 1943 when a coastal mine, dislodged during a storm, washed up beneath the lighthouse cliffs. 2 Royal Navy personnel attempted to disarm it, but it exploded, killing both instantly. The shockwave damaged parts of the lighthouse compound and injured one of the assistant keepers, who survived but bore physical scars for life. The post-war years brought a return to normal operations, but the impact of wartime on Souter's legacy is enduring. The keepers who served during this time exemplified bravery under pressure, often fulfilling dual roles as civilian operators and quasi-military personnel. Their stories are part of the larger narrative of coastal Britain during a century marked by global conflict. By the 1980s, the lighthouse was transformed into a heritage site and museum. The keepers' quarters were restored to their early 20th century appearance. Visitors could now climb the spiral staircase to the lantern room, explore the foghorn station, and view exhibits detailing the history of maritime navigation. Educational programs were launched to teach children about engineering, sea safety, and local history. The National Trust's stewardship ensured that Souter was not merely a relic, but a living monument. Events like lighthouse festivals, ghost tours, and historical reenactments kept the site vibrant. And yet, it wasn't long before stories began to circulate. stories not found in official brochures or tour guides. Visitors and staff alike began to report strange experiences. Footsteps on empty stairs, cold spots, voices in the engine room. The lighthouse, it seemed, had not gone silent after all. Long after its light was extinguished, Souter Lighthouse remained very much alive, at least in the minds of those who believed it haunted. As soon as restoration efforts began in the late 1980s, both staff and visitors reported unexplained phenomena, leading many to suspect that the lighthouse had inherited spiritual as well as historical significance. One of the most frequently reported apparitions is the Lady in the Mirror, a shadowy female figure seen in the headkeeper's bedroom. Several visitors have described glancing into the old mirror on the dresser and seeing, not their own reflection, but the image of a woman in Edwardian clothing standing behind them. When they turned around, no one was there. Staff attempted to remove the mirror once during renovations, but strange accidents followed. Tools vanished, power outages occurred, and a maintenance worker fell down the stairs, allegedly after seeing a figure move past the upper landing. The mirror was returned to its place, and the disturbances ceased. A long corridor near the engine room is infamous for its disembodied whispers. Volunteers working alone often report soft voices just behind them, unintelligible but clearly human. One night, a security guard reported hearing his name spoken twice by an unseen presence. Audio equipment has picked up strange frequencies in this area, though nothing definitive has been captured. Perhaps the most unnerving sightings occur in the lantern room itself. Visitors have reported seeing a man in uniform, believed to be a former keeper, standing silently next to the lighthouse. He vanishes when approached. Some believe this figure is James Rennie, who served during the 1920s and lost his daughter nearby. Whether the ghost is grieving or simply guarding the light remains a matter of speculation. Today, Souter Lighthouse is a cherished historical site managed by the National Trust, welcoming thousands of visitors each year. It has become a vital part of the local identity, drawing tourists not only interested in maritime history, but also those captivated by its paranormal reputation. The restoration work has preserved the lighthouse's character, making it possible for visitors to experience firsthand the conditions faced by the keepers. Authentic furniture, period clothing, and interpretive exhibits create an immersive environment that educates and fascinates. The site's educational programs engage schoolchildren with hands-on activities involving navigation, lighthouse technology, and coastal ecology. Beyond tourism, Souter plays an important role in the local community. It hosts cultural events such as art exhibitions, maritime festivals, and even weddings. The lighthouse's dramatic cliffside setting provides a stunning backdrop, bringing people closer to the sea and the heritage it represents. Local businesses benefit from the increased visitor traffic, and the site's operations provide seasonal employment opportunities. Volunteers contribute by leading tours, maintaining the grounds, and documenting oral histories, ensuring that the lighthouse remains a living monument rather than a static museum piece. The ghost tours, popular particularly in autumn and winter months, blend history with folklore, appealing to those intrigued by the supernatural. These tours raise funds for preservation efforts and create lively discussions about the intersection of fact and legend. Through these various roles, Souter Lighthouse continues to serve as a beacon, not just for ships at sea, but for heritage preservation, education, and community cohesion. Visiting Souter Lighthouse is an opportunity to connect with over a century of maritime history and the enigmatic stories that have emerged from its walls. The site is open year-round, with guided tours available during peak seasons.